background is, and let's find out more about the session. And I'll probably start with AI is a big thing in 2024, isn't it? But there still isn't mass adoption, mass understanding, and then off you go.
Great. I think we're live now.
No. Oh, we are live. We are live. No warning at all. Destiny. Hi, everybody. Oh, don't you love technology? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we are having a LinkedIn Live with the lovely Tim Ringer, who is going to be speaking at the Global Workforce Innovation Summit. And that's what these little LinkedIn Lives are. We're sort of sharing with you what's going to be happening at GWIZ, as we are affectionately calling it. So Tim, welcome. Tim is delivering the keynote, as I said. His background is 30 years in HR consulting and HR software, having led a lot of very successful HR, IT and change programs globally from the looks of it. So welcome, Tim. Let's find out a little bit more about your session, which is obviously AI in the workplace. Now, lots of us might think, well, AI is everywhere. We all know about it, but there isn't mass adoption yet, is there, in the workplace?
That's right. Yeah, it's from my point of view, I look at AI through a productivity lens. So my previous book to the one I'm working on now was called Solving the Productivity Puzzle. And in that book in 2018, when I was writing it, I predicted that, at some point in the near future, that AI is going to come online for everybody to use, and it's going to be something that starts to, and then eventually, I think, improves people's productivity tremendously. But the issue is, and this is what the new book is about, which is called Revelation: Harnessing AI in the Workplace, is not getting down into the ethics of it or the technology of it, but really looking at it as another technology inflection point that really we haven't seen since about 2000, when the internet was first kind of brought into organizations and was commercialized. Now, that seems like, well, when was there a day that didn't occur? Well, before 25 years ago, it wasn't there. And that was a huge inflection point. It took quite a few years for it to impact productivity, but it did. And so AI is that next inflection point where it's going to also, I think, and I'll talk in a moment about how, but it's also going to create levels of productivity, I think, probably more than we've ever seen during the Industrial Revolution of over 250 years. So, but as you said, I think the new book and what I'm going to talk about in my keynote is the most important thing, as was with the internet back then, was that first of all, we need to be aware that it's there, and we need to be aware of what it can do and what it can't do. Right? AI is a little bit over hyped in what it can do. Really what we have at our hands today is generative AI. It's a very specific kind that's very simple, but very powerful, right? And we need to kind of create awareness of what that is. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people, both young and older, that don't really know what it means. They hear about it, but don't know what it means. So the first step is to get everybody kind of aware of what it is and the power of it and what it can't do. And then the next one is to then build people's skills, because the AI is only as good as the questions you ask it. And it takes a while to learn how to do that. You can go in and play on ChatGPT, but it takes a while to learn. And then the next thing that we need to develop skills around is then interpret the results, right? Because if we just say the machine gives us the results and we don't question them or really look at them and say, yeah, is that right? We're in danger of not only killing productivity, but doing the wrong thing. So from my perspective, it's all about kind of creating that awareness, develop the skills to ask it the right questions, and then the skills to be able to interpret what it tells us. And when we do that in this kind of first phase of AI, the amount of productivity that can be built is almost unlimited, really.
I think for lots of us who are using it, it's really a no-brainer. But if you haven't used it yet, you've got your busy work day, your busy things you do, you almost think, I haven't got time to learn something new, and I can't see how it's going to help me. And unless it's being really kind of shown to you within the business, you're not even thinking of using it, are you? And I guess that means people have got to set up training programs. And how do you kind of get people encouraged to use it quickly and easily?
Yeah, and I think we go back to the future, because one thing that we did really well in 1999 to about 2001 was organizations invested a lot of money and energy and resources into training people how to make use of the internet at work, right?
Yeah.
And we're just back there again. It's very simple. It's a change management exercise, which has within it skill building, and that's really where it is. The implementation of the technology is going to be so much faster now, and so much easier than it was, say, 25 years ago when the internet was coming along. And it's going to go quickly, and organizations have to, adopt this change management approach very quickly to kind of make the most of it. And those organizations that are doing that are already seeing significant productivity uplifts, higher quality work, less stressed people. Let me give you an example of my neighbor. She was very stressed because she had a new boss coming in, and the boss told everybody in the team to write me a one-pager about your performance. What do you do really well? What could you do better? Almost like writing a performance review for yourself. And she was a bit panicked, and she's like, this is going to take me all day. And her daughter was overhearing this and said, look, Mom, let's go into ChatGPT. It'll write it for you. And she's like, I don't know what that is. And she said, well, let me show you. And she said, right, just tell it now your strengths, your weaknesses, tell it about your performance. And guess what? Within a couple of minutes, they had the one pager. It was done. And she had the rest of her day to do work. And she was absolutely astonished that, something she was going to have to spend hours on only took a few minutes. And that's kind of that's a very typical story, actually. The atypical story is that somebody knows to kind of jump and do that when they're faced with something that could take them a lot of time and end up saving time. So
but I hear that story. We hear that story of an individual using it around, like their work hasn't yet necessarily implemented it. And that's a bit frustrating because you're kind of finding ways to use it. There must be businesses that aren't quite realizing how they can get their staff to do it.
That's right. Yeah. And I call it the Tim Ringo rule, which is the way I've always looked at change management is look at individuals and teams and think about what's in it for them, right? And explain that, what's in it for you to go onto ChatGPT and learn how to use it. It was same back in the day when we said, look, go on the internet and access these tools. And we had to tell people what's in it for them. And when they saw that, they were intrigued and said, okay, oh, and you've developed a program for me that's going to teach me. Okay, I'll do that. And rather than just coming and telling people, hey, you're going to start using ChatGPT, here's a course, you have to kind of start out with what's in it for them, what's in it for the organization. Because too much technology is put in place for the sake of technology.
Yeah.
This one's different. This is going to be, once it's bedded in and even more sophisticated AI comes, voice activated AI and these types of things, it's going to be super powerful very quickly. So you just kind of have to explain. And so my neighbor, she saw what was in it for her very quickly, which is that she was only going to have to spend a few minutes on something she thought would take several hours. That's how you do it. It's really that simple.
Are you finding there are any industries or businesses that are more inclined or less inclined? Are you seeing or is it just it's more about the culture of a company as opposed to the industry in terms of absorbing it, doing it quickly?
I think over the past 18 months, the industries that have seen the most benefit from it and have used it the most is services industries, right? So financial services, consulting firms, people who are doing knowledge work in front of a PC. And that is, the majority of the work that's done these days, as opposed to 200 years ago where people were in factories or farms. So it's been kind of the services industries where you have lots of knowledge workers. That's where that has worked. But we're going to start to see, in manufacturing situations, people on the manufacturing floor be able to ask the AI, hey, I've got this. Can you help me debug this issue with the machine I'm running, and you're going to see that starting to come in. But I would say mostly right now, services industries are the ones gaining the most traction and capability from it. But again, I think it's all being kind of done accidentally, and I think people have to place programs to answer the what's in it for me, make people aware, answer the question what's in it for me, and give people the skills and capabilities to ask it the right questions and interpret the results.
Because the irony, as you say, is people want there'll be structures all the way through their websites and chatbots and all sort of things that are using the technology, but then it's actually like making it efficient for your workforce inside the business. So like what they're showing to the outside world is this incredibly technical, impressive knowledge of AI and everything that you could do with it on your website and in your industry, but they're not actually on the day-to-day jobs.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize they've been using AI, generative AI, for a while now. I mean, chatbots are a form of it, and they've got better and better and more sophisticated over time. And in fact, human resources is one of the first organizations in companies to have been using generative AI with bots to help people answer HR questions and things. So it's kind of good to remind people, hey, you've already been using it, but now it's more sophisticated. There's more things you can do with it. I mean, you know, OpenAI, who owns ChatGPT, are releasing a subscription version where organizations can buy the subscription and they can input their data into into the AI, and people can use it as general AI throughout the organization, and it'll have ability to answer all sorts of questions, do all sorts of things for you using the company's data. And that's really where we're going to see it really start to take off, when we make it specific to a, rather than an industry or just make it more broadly, we make it specific to you and the company you work in. That's when it's going to have the
Do you think there's a fear that's holding some people back around the data and the use of and the ownership of the data, and putting all your stuff somewhere else for someone else to read through and do stuff with? Not someone else.
Yeah.
AI.
I mean, it's when it's brought into the organization, it's closed off from the internet. Just like a lot of people don't realize that ChatGPT is not connected to the internet, right? There's all sorts of technical reasons we don't have time to get into here, but it'll be the same thing. It's going to be inside your organization. It's not, people from the outside are not going to be able to touch it. People from the inside are only going to have access to things that are relevant to them, and you're just going to apply your normal data protection internally, but knowing that that data shouldn't be able to get outside because it's sitting walled off inside the organization.
That's so it's more just because I was saying there's lots of misconceptions. I guess you will address that. Is there another? I suppose what I want to think is, before people go away, obviously we're going to be doing, this is all happening 22nd to 24th of May at the Canary Wharf. What would be the biggest, oh no, you're not going to give us that now. Why should people not miss your keynote?
The reason people shouldn't miss it is because I'm going to talk about what AI can do and what it can't do. And I'm going to talk about, so I'll put it in that context. And then I'm going to talk about how do you go and put in place a program to take advantage of that. And then I'm going to talk about the future, because the future of AI is not far off, and it's going to be doing some amazing things. So one of the things I'm going to be talking about is, we're going to see within the next 2 to 3 years, the keyboard and the mouse is going to start to disappear, right? And we're going to not type into our technology, we're going to talk into it. And that's going to completely change kind of how work is set up in the office, right? So think about that. So the keyboard and the mouse will start to be something that, say, 5-10 years from now, people are going to not even know what they were, you know, and we won't see those around very much. It's like at home. We use generative AI at home, a lot of us, because we have an Amazon Alexa or Google Home. Well, that's what work's going to be like. You're going to talk to it. It's going to be an assistant to you every day, and it's going to go do stuff for you rather than you have to go and enter information. And it'll prompt you, and then you'll give it an answer, and it'll go away and do stuff, and vice versa. You'll prompt it. And so don't miss it, because we have to kind of get through this initial part where we become sophisticated in knowing about it and using it, to get ready for this, which is coming, that is only a couple of years away, where the kind of shape of the workplace is going to be dramatically different.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's so interesting when you say that, because like physically things will have to change. I mean, I'm you'll laugh. I was getting frustrated with having to type my thought process into AI, you know, like the waffle in my brain, and then forming. So I was then, this is before I realized I could do it. I was like reading into my phone what I wanted to say, and then getting the text from that and putting it in, and then realizing that actually there's a little microphone button, and I could have been saying it. And then once I started doing all that, I would start giving, I don't even write anything into AI. I literally say it all. And I share an office with my husband, who thinks I'm giving him instructions when I'm giving them to AI. And obviously AI is much quicker with the answer than he is. But
well, there's two interesting things about what you said there. First of all, you weren't aware that you could, and that's, again, a lot of people aren't aware they could talk to ChatGPT and just tell it to do things. So first, people aren't aware. Second, how it changes the dynamics where you work. Does somebody think you're talking to them or to the AI? So it's going to be just interesting in how we handle office etiquette in that way. And I think the kind of the earbuds and things we're going to be using are be much more sophisticated. They're not going to require a loud voice to use. You can talk very quietly to the AI, and it can talk back to you. So yeah, those two dynamics are things that we have to start getting ready for.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much to learn about the workplace and the changing workplace anyway at GWIZ, which is the kind of point of the whole event. And we want to be as collaborative as possible during it. We want to hear everybody's points of view. I don't know who's going to be listening over the next few weeks to this or whatever, but please put your questions in. Particularly if you link us in, we will know, and Tim can come and answer any. But I would hope that you will come to GWIZ. There is a discounted link, which is going along the bottom of the screen, which means if you use that now, it won't last forever, but you can get a discounted ticket to GWIZ. So do have a look at that. Put any questions that you might have for Tim in the chat, or obviously link in and send them to him. And you are day 2, I believe, at the moment on the schedule. You are in the morning on day 2, which is the 23rd. So everybody come and see that. We will hear more of what Tim is doing. Don't want to share too much now, otherwise we won't come to the keynote. And just look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you so much, Tim.
My pleasure. Thank you, Claire. Look forward to